Larry David, a man insufferable for some but observant for others who can't help himself but point out the obvious around him. Curb Your Enthusiasm showcased the writer of Seinfeld and the rather innocuous moments that take place in his life, mostly his observations of the world and simply opening his mouth, leading him to a lot of altercations with individuals from various backgrounds. The reason for people connecting with such a character is that he doesn't necessarily intend to hurt others, but through sheer ignorance and inquisitiveness inadvertently finds himself in the most awkward situations. This show led to polarizing reactions, one loving the candidness of the character and the other just terming it as the perspective of a whiny, complaining, middle-aged man. Hank Moody from the show Californication showcases a divorcee co-parenting a daughter that acts out sporadically and who always finds himself in a cyclical self-destruction phase in his life, all revolving around every vice that you can think of. People connect with the character for his undeniable charm, confidence, and lack of care for others' opinion, but the reason for most of his mess is self-induced. These characters are not perfect in any way. Their actions and opinions are not glorified or considered or showcased to be heroic. They are flawed just like real humans, and the writing points out exactly that. Similarly, but not as effectively, we have the Netflix title Decoupled, starring R. Madhavan and Surveen Chawla, that has generated quite the polarizing reactions on Twitter that range from pointing out the insufferable, offensive, and annoying nature of the character portrayed by R. Madhavan to some audience members connecting to its social commentary of pointing out the obvious and intentionally ruffling feathers. The series, which is based on the book by Manu Joseph and is directed by Hardik Mehta, already has a lot of baggage, as Manu Joseph as a writer has a reputation that many individuals are not fans of. So understand this, that the vitriol that this series is getting has a lot to do with the perception that people have about the writer, as Madhavan's character is essentially Manu Joseph's observations being expressed through a fictional character in an 8-episode series. The show focuses on a successful writer, Arya, and an entrepreneur and investor, Shruti, played by Surveen Chawla, who are experiencing marital issues and have decided to file for divorce. Signing on the dotted line has been pushed as both parents are figuring out the best way to communicate the news to their only daughter. The escapades that follow that include Arya getting himself into trouble for pointing out various aspects of society around him, the concept of falling out of love in relationships, the struggles of co-parenting, and finally the evolution of said relationship forms the crux of Decoupled. I find it hilarious that people have absolutely dismissed the show as horrible because it's much more complex than that. You also let me know your honest thoughts about the show that has been embroiled in controversy. Bear with me as I talk about the good and bad aspects because this one is quite the journey. No one is spared. You have to understand the current climate of social media, art, and culture is such that people love to categorize whatever they see. In the grand scheme of things online, the narrative would like to believe that a Suryavanshi is the mouthpiece of the present government, whereas a movie like Jai Bhim has many elements that oppose the same. So for whatever politics that is spewed, a film or show gets categorized the same way. The fact that Manu Joseph's writing does not spare anyone on both sides of the spectrum is what really annoys a lot of people. The observations that are pointed out throughout the show work effectively in some parts and in others transition to become an absolute overkill and problematic. What works are many of the instances that range from anyone questioning a person in a uniform being dismissed as an anti-national, the hypocrisy of placing a token northeastern woman as the face of Asian cuisine, something as obscure as the purpose of an attendant in a public toilet, my favorite probably the accuracy with which waiters interject at the perfect moments when things are being discussed in a restaurant, the double standard that exists of the upper class wanting to aid the poor and underprivileged but still wanting their bubble to be impenetrable. A lot of the observations throughout the show generate some hilarious and awkward moments. It does not entirely land all the time, but to dismiss the show as horrible as it's not funny even momentarily is extremely harsh according to me. While the writing of the show is a hit and a miss as well, it's literally about middle-aged Indian men unearthing their living room conversations, it does bring about several laugh out loud moments. Whether it be the discussion of an older generation having sex, pretentious art exhibitions and the delusional bubble in one what considers to be impressive, or as we envisioned, Ayushmann Khurrana films finally becoming a meme. I can't deny that the show has several hilarious moments in which I did laugh out loud, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it does have several issues with its writing as well. Uncomfortable moments. There are many moments that will make you cringe or uncomfortable, and I understand how that is exactly the intention of the creators, but it is the portrayal of the same issues which I have a problem with. This is where Manu Joseph's writing really stands out, as his politics clearly gets communicated. The combination of some of his prejudice and the caricaturish portrayals of the same is the reason why people have been annoyed on social media of the tropes that are portrayed. If you watch the show, you will realize that every dark-skinned female character is portrayed as unattractive, and anyone marginally fair is considered to be beautiful. The show almost dismissively presents the same as fact, which perpetuates the archaic notion of what is considered to be beautiful in this country. In the current climate where there are several religious debates and altercations in our country, the creators showcase a sequence of a character stretching in a prayer room, mocking fun at the much debated concept of where one can do what. While this initially fits the theme of the show of Arya being in an uncomfortable situation, almost unintentionally, it is the overkill with respect to the events that take place in the plane that perpetuate the stereotype against Muslims traveling by air. All the women barring Shruti that are presented in this world are through the male gaze, judged for their physical attributes, perpetuating the social norms within which women should be confined. So to say that the writing is entirely hilarious or entirely bad would be dismissive, as the show is a little bit of both things. The cast and self-aware nature. What cannot be denied is that R. Madhavan and Surveen are brilliant in the show. I love to see Surveen Chawla in a full-fledged Netflix series, as she has been actively working in the industry for so long and probably deserves way more. The chemistry she shares with Arya is organic and natural, probably owing to the capability of the actor. Sadly, the situation with the show is that it is more hell-bent on focusing on the escapades of Arya than really showcasing the problems in a relationship where individuals fall out of love. The show actually completely loses momentum in its last 2 episodes, but hooks you back with its cliffhanger, making you anticipate what may happen in season 2. I also love the performances of Surveen's parents in the series, their annoyance of the couple's separation, their eccentric relationship, their attempt at assimilating with a different generation. All of it accounts for some great moments. R. Madhavan really does embody the snarky, self-obsessed and dismissive attitude of Arya really well. He likes to live in his bubble and believe that his outlook on life is the gold standard, only to be brilliantly reprimanded by other characters that he is simply delusional. That's why I consider the show to be partly self-aware, as Arya is not celebrated but is put in his place for his actions. Almost every character eventually in the show has a moment of revenge against Arya, and they account for some hilarious moments. The problem essentially would have been if he was lauded for his toxic ways, but I love the fact that he is taught a lesson in several moments, making the portrayal of an extremely flawed character even more apparent. Extras and dialogues. Let's get one thing out of the way. Chetan Bhagat is not a really good actor. He does try, but you can clearly notice the stiff nature with which he delivers dialogues. Barring Freesia and Sonia Rathi, most of the extras and the supporting cast that come in and out of the show put forth performances just like extras watching Shah Rukh beat a stuffed animal in Om Shanti Om. I have to say that the writing in many moments transitions to also become bizarre and pretentious, from mansplaining constantly and lecturing women about how women think, comparing 7-star hotel bathrooms and women to refugees reuniting with their homeland, the notes to oneself that Arya constantly records, flippantly making fun of domestic violence and battered women as if they are token individuals rather than the reality of so many people. I won't lie though, that the writing does get very uncomfortable, but my father, being from Bits Pilani, could not stop laughing at the shots that were fired at him with that brilliant line. The series attempts to be as thought-provoking and hilarious as shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, and more specifically tries to showcase the complex relationships exactly like Californication, but only a glimmer of some of the magic comes across in a show like Decoupled. However, the social media chatter of absolutely dismissing it as the worst thing to come out is rather excessive. It's definitely a breather from all the intense content we have seen on the OTT platform, which is not entirely horrible and not entirely great. Thank you for your patience, because this one was definitely a complex one to tackle with all the chatter around it. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about the show. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.